Good evening, YouTubers. Welcome to episode 47 of Shrigleytube TV. Thanks for everybody that made the effort to contact me after Wednesday's Mallory Park video. Brilliant, and the offers of help, and it's just brilliant. Thanks very much. I do really appreciate everything. Obviously, I'm a difficult person to help because I like to control everything myself, but yeah, I've got a good idea of where I need to be now to sort the fuel starvation out, thanks to all the messages, and also for all the phone calls and messages from people regarding the fan and the rear radiator cooling from last Sunday's show. So I've got an idea where I'm going with that now. I've learned so much about the way that the fan works and how it, I think looking into things, the 11 blade mini fan wasn't the way to go. It's not designed to be up at 8,500 RPM, and then there's all the issues of cavitation with the mechanical pump running at crankshaft speed, and it's just a minefield. So I've got a new plan now, which is we're going to move away from the fan, mechanically driven, and the water pump. We're going to go for a constant speed electric water pump and 2 fans with a modern radiator in the back with some louvers to catch the air coming past. I'm going to draw the air up from underneath and out the top of the engine bay. But anyway, more on that when I get to it. So thanks again for everybody. This week's been crazy. I've been building an XC engine to take to Jersey with me for my mate Tim. So I've done that, just run it. It's great. I had a visit from Ed. That was also nice. So hope you enjoyed tonight's video. I'll look forward to seeing you all at 7 o'clock next Sunday night. Bye for now. Okay, YouTubers, it's Monday morning. I've busy taking the broken engine out of my Hillman after Mallory, and Ed's turned up. Ed the elephant. Is that your trunk, Ed the elephant?
No, it's the crocodile.
The crocodile?
Yeah, we've called it the crocodile. But we've got a problem with it, Andy. It's not worked.
What? Something I've done has not worked? I don't understand.
It was only a trial thing, but there's that much dust on the rally that it's just been sucking dust in again. So I've done some research, and bless him, Clark Dawson up in Cumbria has given me some great advice on this. I've also spoken to Mike Volks that did a conversion on his Ginetta.
Okay. That
works well. So between those two, I think I'm here to talk to you about trying to put something together on my car using both their ideas.
Right, so you're going to go for like an historic back window fresh air feed?
That's it, yep.
I think that's the best plan.
Should have done that originally, I know, but it's always been a case of I've got another rally in 2 weeks' time. Never got the time to do it, so yeah, we're going to go that way.
So the big question for me is, how do you think your pistons are?
I think I need some new ones.
Right, bring your crocodile over here, and we'll if you hold the camera, what we'll do is we'll have I'm so amazed that we've managed to get the
that's good.
I'm so surprised that we've managed to get muck past both my filters that I put in here. Could you hold that as well, please? That's just the microphone. Oh, that was good preparation, wasn't it? and your microphone's popped off. 1 second, I'll just get my screwdriver. Right, so there's obviously, you've sent me a video which I'll try and tag onto this that shows lots of dust inside. Oh my good lord, look at that. Well, that wasn't very good, was it? And I was thinking it might get past this one, but it won't get past this one. That is absolutely rubbish, isn't it? It's like cement dust. We're in a quarry.
Well, it was epping.
You know what? It's so fine, isn't it?
Yeah.
Crikey.
Brecon beacons.
It's not shale. It's not mud. It's so fine. Right. Well, fresh air feed. We've got some bits here, haven't we, Ed, that we've been looking at. This is Ed's potential new fresh air feed from the window, and then this is going to be potentially Ed's new air filter, which has got a filter within it, which will obviously sit on the back shelf above the engine somewhere inside the car, leading up to the window like that. Grand. Right, well, we've got a plan, so we just need to get new pistons in again, and hopefully you'll be all good. Thanks for doing the camera, Ed. And yeah, I'm really sorry that it didn't work.
Well, we tried it, but I know it was but that's the thing, you've got to make sure it's prepared properly. But I've never got the times, always between events and what have you. So, but no, should have done this last year. Lesson learnt.
Lesson learnt. Right, we know for the future. Brilliant. Right, my mate Ed just agreed to take me out for dinner because he felt so sorry for me. And my mate Lee in the back, can you see Lee there? We've come to Chapati Corner for a decent feed, just to cheer me up after my weekend's disappointment. So I'll do a little video. If you ever... Okay chaps, we're just at B&J Engineering with the crankshaft. This is a very special crankshaft and a very special flywheel and clutch setup belonging to Mr. Adrian Oliver. So got his crank on the balancer now. Gonna get Bob to balance it up for him. We'll leave the front pulley on to start with, just because that one has actually already been balanced. So we're gonna start from there, get it rock and rolling, go and see PMC because Bob doesn't want to be friends today. That's his little Mini. He likes that. Don't know why. How are we doing, Paul?
Alright, mate.
Can you talk for a minute?
Yeah, go on.
Don't stop work.
God forbid.
What we on with?
Rebuilding the Duratec head.
A Duratec head. Looks complicated.
No.
Can you cope with this okay?
Well, you know.
How's
There's always you to help, isn't there?
Oh, fantastic. How's Bob been? Has he been nice recently?
Nice?
Yeah.
What's that?
Well, I'm just having a mooch around his workshop. Look at some of this kit. It's got his got an XE on the Honer here. Looks very nice. That Miller there, when I worked for Bob, did all my int blocks on there. Loved it. It's got a readout on it, digital readout, so it's dead easy to do the wheel strings. This is a Dean Smith and Grace. Absolutely amazing lathe, that. Best lathe ever. If you ever want a light and a flywheel, crikey. Yeah, that nothing stops it. It absolutely chews through. It's proper needle roller job. This isn't no Chinese job. It's a proper lathe. Really nice. And then obviously his newer machines, etc. That little Harrison M250 did quite a lot on that as well back in the day. Good to see all these old machines. Okay, Bob, press the button, please. I've not pressed the button. Right. Can I ask, Bob, what's this crankshaft over here? Is it an interloper?
Over there?
Yeah.
Oh,
The A series.
yeah. Maestro.
Oh, the A plus thing. Look at this. Are we in?
We're in.
Excellent. Right, I'll get the flywheel bolted on. I knew it'd be a good one, this, because it was out of a lovely standard engine. It's only had a couple of holes drilled in it. I haven't gone too far.
You are.
I don't make mistakes.
You've gone too far. It's gone the other way.
What?
Yes.
Too
far.
I've got to drill another hole now.
Yeah.
Bloody hell. At least I'm consistent.
About the same amount again that you've just taken on the last one.
Opposite that hole there.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I'm feeling very confident for this one, Bob. How are you feeling?
No, it's slightly out.
What? 179 milligrams.
Yeah.
So, one more hole in that side.
On this side, put it in here.
On your marks, get set, go. Oh, it's knocking. It's in the ring, Bob.
Yeah.
Only just so.
Yeah. You're going to make that last one a bit bigger.
That third hole a smidge deeper.
Yeah.
I'll do all three. Oh. Still more. What's that? 129. Moved? Has it moved round? Right, looks finally like we're well in there with Mr. Oliver's crankshaft, so we'll call that in the outro now and get it ready to build up for next week. Okay, YouTubers, something a little bit different to the usual imp engine. This is another favourite engine of mine. It's called a Vauxhall c20xe red top engine. Now this engine belongs to my mate Tim in Jersey. Now Tim's offered to let me use his BMW rally car in the rally at the end of the year, but he could do with an engine for it. So I said, right, I'll put all the bits together, make a list, and order some parts, and hopefully we'll get a tune out of it ready before we go to Jersey for the Festival of Motoring next week. So got some bits on the floor here, got some more bits here, some throttle bodies and some DTA, and oh my good lord, all sorts of bits. Now the head's quite a good spec, big valve, ported B&J race head, got some big lift cams in it as well. Obviously it's on steel followers with shims and proper springs, etc, steel caps, got all that. We've got a sort of trigger wheel out for the front. Tim's very kindly posted a wet sump over because we're going to run it as a wet sump engine. Now what I've got to do here is, unfortunately this head came to me from Bob and the caps have been lost, so I've had to go in his spares box, and out of about 100 caps I've now got the cams to turn nicely with the wrong caps on basically. So what I propose to do is I'm going to rub all this information off with a soft pad, because it's nothing relates to the normally you've got like you can see a number there, number 4, number 3, actually that one does match, but that was just coincidence. That's number 4 with a number 5 cap. That's number 5 with a number 10 cap on back to front, etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to linish all the information off here and then re-stamp it, and I'll just do them dead simple. I'll do them I1 for inlet 1, I2 inlet 2, etc, with an arrow pointing towards number 1 cylinder or the front of the engine. I'll do the same for this, E1, E2, E3, E4, etc. And then also I've just put the manifold on. Obviously it's easier to deal with at a dry build stage. If you look down here you'll see the not very good, but the port isn't aligned to the manifold, so I'm going to hurdy-gurdy all that out as well. And then we'll have a bit of a talk about the bottom end. It's a bit special, the bottom end. It's here, it's been here a long time. Of course Tim being a nice chap never puts any pressure on me, so it just gets left to the back of the queue all the time, but I would like to make this opportunity to get it over to him. It's a 2.2 what they called it, is it an X Z22xe, I think the engine code is. It's out of a Omega or out of a Frontera. It's actually an Ecotec engine, but the bottom end is the same as the XE, but with a taller block, so which allowed me to change things because we've got a nice steel crank for it. So we've had some longer rods done, and we've got this nice Omega piston to go on top. So the rod to stroke ratio is really good on this engine, because using the taller block with the standard length rod we get exactly what we want, which it should do good power this, but we'll come to more of that later. We'll get the head sorted for now. Okay YouTubers, I've been steaming on with this XE engine, and I thought, oh, crikey, I've not done an update or a build or anything, so I thought I'd better do a little bit of a chat about it before it ends up ready to go on a dyno. So first of all, we can see it's got a dipstick. That's because it's a wet sump engine. So my friend's putting this, Tim, he's putting this in his BMW, and I said, look, we can make the wet sump work, no worries. So we'll just give it good capacity, a bit of baffling and a baffle plate, and it'll all work fine, no problem. So that's pretty simple, that side of things. And I'm using an original Vauxhall oil pump, which is the original C20xe pump. These are great, these pumps. They only have one fault, and that is it's got a gear that runs on 2 flats on the crankshaft, and it's made out of something called, I believe they call it powder metallurgy, where they basically, what they do is, this is one here, they put powder into a die and then they compress it and then they get it red hot. It's just cheap manufacturing, so it comes out as a finished gear, you know, ready to fit in the job, but they're very brittle. So what happens is you can see inside here they've got 2 flats on them. You see the wear marker where the flats have been driving the gear around. Well, obviously in the race cars you see a lot of RPM, so it gets quite a hard time, and what happens is they burst, so they split across here. So the only modification I've done to the oil pump, it's standard pressure relief valve, is I've put a aftermarket steel gear in it so it won't burst. I say steel, it's like, you know, a billet, machine from a billet. Now I thought I'd better talk about this for a second. You might notice that normally we have an oil filter on here and this would be bunged. What I did was I messed around a bit, and I basically made it so we can put it on a remote filter housing, because it's always nice to have the oil cooler pipes and the filter up here. I'm not too keen on the sandwich plate, plus I'm not sure how much space is around on the BMW engine. Now obviously this hasn't been done this week, this has existed for a long time, because what happened was, without going, I'll tell you anyway, years ago I had an XR3i and I also had an Astra GTE 16 valve, and my XR3i went round corners like you wouldn't believe, and my Astra GTE had a digital dash, and it had the best engine in the world. I loved it. It was a red top XE engine. Anyway, when I got a bit more time about and all the rest of it, before the kids came, I decided to put the Vauxhall red top engine on a Ford RS Turbo IB5 gearbox and put it in my XR3i, which I did. And I've actually got some video footage of it somewhere, so I'll try and tag it on in a minute. But it was an absolute weapon. I loved it. It was a car that Ford never made, because, you know, I do love a CVH, but the Ford CVH engine was not a patch on this thing. This is an absolute monster. You know, these are cracking lumps. These are absolutely belting. Anyway, I'm going off the track a bit here. So it's a standard oil pump with a gear, and I'm going to have it on external dash 10 pipes to the filter housing, etc. That's where the alternator mounts. Now I've had to change the roller position, etc., because, like I discussed before, this is what we call a Z22xe block from a Frontera. Now it's standard, the block, it's standard bore, 86mm bore, because I wanted it to be under 2 litre for the 2 litre class. And it's got these little, I put these in just to help the core plugs from stop popping out. You know, there's nothing worse than a core plug popping out, because you get hot antifreeze all over your tyres, and if you're doing 100 mile an hour on a corner at a time, then you're straight in the fence, so or the hedge. So I've just put those little bungs on to stop the core plugs from being able to pop out. The block was mint low mileage block with stainless steel core plugs, so I've just steam cleaned it all, given it a light hone. I had the Bob Jones Omega 86mm short compressionite pistons. I had an Arrow steel crankshaft, 86mm throw, and I got some rods made. And what I was trying to achieve was, I was trying to make it an XE with a decent rod to stroke ratio. Now they do a long rod kit for the standard height XE, which is the red top 2 litre. But they don't get the rod length anywhere up near where we are, which is, rod length is 161mm, which gives us a rod to stroke ratio of 1.87 to 1. So what that's basically saying is, if it's got 86mm of stroke, the rod is 161, so it's nearly twice the length of rod to the amount of stroke. Now the rod doesn't affect the stroke in any way, it just affects the dynamics. It affects the way the piston slows down and accelerates up to top dead center. It slows its acceleration down because the angles are more gentle on the rod, and that allows us to absorb more energy from the burn at a higher RPM. Now obviously I've no experience in any of this. This is all completely new to me. I know what it does in the imp, and this is a really good rod to stroke ratio in the imp. We can't manage it in the standard height block unfortunately. You've got to put spacer plates on it. But on the XE, we're having this Z22 block, which is I think it's nearly 25mm taller. We've managed to get a really good dynamics, so I'm really excited. I wish I had a dyno that could measure it properly. Unfortunately, all I'm going to be able to do here is to proof it. I'm going to just run it, make sure it's got no oil leaks, it's got oil pressure, it sounds correct, etc. It might give it a little squeeze, but it'll be on a pair of 45mm Delautos, because I just simply don't have time or really the skills to dyno it properly. I always prefer the engines to be dynoed in the car, because you get actual fuel pressure and all the dynamics that affects the engine massively. They're all correct when it's in the car, not on the dyno. It's a good way if you've got all the correct resources to make it work, but I don't have them, so we'll just run it up, and then Tim can put it in the car and he can take it to his local rolling road in Jersey and get it all mapped. So I've waffled on, haven't I? I can't think what. I've got a few bungs to make. We've done the dry sump, we've done the wet sump for it. It's got a dipstick. Obviously last time you saw the head it was bare. I've shimmed it all. Oh yeah, I know what to tell you about. Was if you might remember a minute ago I was saying about the cam caps were incorrect, they've been lost for this head. So I've got some caps that match, and then what I've done is I've linished off the original information. I've just put I1, I2 obviously, I3 and I4 for inlet, and then we've done the same on the exhaust side. We've got E for the first cap there, and then E for exhaust 1, 2, 3 and 4. So all that's gone together really well. It's all shimmed up well. I'm dead happy with it. We've done all the manifold matching, so I'm going to continue now. We need to do some work. I've got to turn this cam cover into something that looks presentable. We do a bit of chopping here and sort a bit of that out, and change the bung this baffle, and we just breathe from here. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was I was going to put a crank sensor. Obviously I've ordered the trigger wheel, it's not arrived yet. Normally on the XC they put the trigger wheel here, but I'm not keen on that idea, just purely because yeah, I'm not sure how vulnerable it'll be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it here, because we've got a nice flat of iron there that I can drill and tap into. And I've got myself a piece of angle iron my mate gave me, or donated to me should I say, my friend Nick from R&D. Thank you Nick, you might recognise that from when we did your Ferrari engine. So I'm going to chop this up, and then we'll drill it and tap it, and we'll mount it on here, and we'll get a trigger so we can obviously tell the ignition where the crank position is. Right, I'll stop waffling now, and we'll get on with doing some work. Sit by now, get. I'm getting in it. Okay YouTubers, we've skipped a few steps. We're now on the dyno. I've made all these little bungs for the crank sensor and dipstick etc. From when it was obviously a different type of engine, or a different purpose should we say. I put my 4x2x1 exhaust manifold on, obviously set cam timing. I put an old pair of 45mm Delortos on with some 38mm chokes, so we're going to start it up on that, and then we'll have to ring the Oracle Bob Jones and find out what jets, mains and airs and emulsion tubes to start with. I've got a bit of an idea, but I bet if we question him he'll just come up with the figures straight away. Now the point of making this video was I'm about to get oil pressure, so I've put some oil out the can just over all the cams, and I filled the sump full of 5 litres of fresh oil. But something I thought might be worth going through with you chaps, because I do have to go through this quite a lot with my customers, is when you first get oil pressure on a freshly built engine, obviously I've packed the gears inside the pump with assembly lube, not Vaseline, not grease, assembly lube, because you don't want grease getting to your bearing, you just want assembly lube because it's thin enough to go through. Now, obviously a lot of my customers ring me and say, I've been winding it over with the plugs out and I've flattened the battery and I've still got no oil pressure. And I say, right, you've got to give the oil somewhere to go. And what I mean by that is the pump is trying to pump a big airlock against a 2 foul clearance in theory all over the engine, so there's nowhere for the oil on the exit side of the pump to go. So what you have to do is you have to this is where the oil pressure switch would go. Now that's the adapter for my oil pressure gauge. So this basically clips onto here, and that gives me my gauge reading. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave that off, and we're going to wind it over together until we see oil come out of here, and then we know that we've got prime to the pump. Then we'll connect it and wind it over again, and a few seconds later we should see the gauge go up. I'd imagine on cranking we should see a good 40 psi out of this. And then the third most important step is we come up to the top here, and you see these corners. This is where the oil feed tends to come out, and here the journals on the camshaft. So it's fed into the first one. The camshaft's hollow, and then it's got holes in the camshaft which lubricates each of these journals that support the crank, and then in turn the oil oozes out the side of them onto the cam. The oil you can see there is what I've poured onto it, cleaned fresh out of the can. So when it comes and primes up here, we'll see it coming out of here and here first. Right, I'll put the electric on and we'll have a go at winding it over, and hopefully we shall see the oil pressure emerge out of this hole down here in not too long a time. Oh. Whoops. Right, I'd forgotten about putting a bung in there. I'd done the one behind the flywheel, and I'd done the one inside the water pump housing, but I'd forgotten that. We'll have to pause the camera whilst I bung that, then we'll put that on, and hopefully we'll get some pressure up then. But it sounds like the battery's got about as much life in it as me. Okay, I've got my bung in now, just popped him in there. So hopefully we should see pressure when I go to wind him over next. So we'll get this on the gauge, spin the gauge around a bit. Okay, let's see what happens. Oh, we got a bit of pressure. We've got a leak from a fitting here. That's not a very good start, is it? Right, let's keep going and see if we get some oil up to the top. Okay, we've got the jump pack on, so hopefully we'll get a few more laps out of it. So I can hear it. Oh yeah, plenty of oil. And we've got 35 psi, but we are only doing about 10 revs per minute. So that's all good to see. There's all oil going to the right places. We'll give the battery a little bit of a charge, whilst luckily the postman has just arrived. So here's the trigger wheel we talked about, or the lack of trigger wheel. Here's the one I've ordered. So I'm going to have to trepan this out on the lathe and I'm going to make it fit over that index there. And then we'll put some we'll put some little M4 screws in it to hold it on, and we're going to make a bracket as well. You might have seen the channel I had yesterday. I've cut that out with the hacksaw and given it a bit of a file, and I'm going to mount that somewhere like that there, so that the sensor can go on the end and hold the trigger in position. So we have got a bit to go yet. I've certainly got time for the batteries to charge up. It'd be unlikely that I get a tune out of this today, but it's looking more hopeful than it was this morning. I thought we'd have a quick update on the crank trigger. I have trepanned the centre out of that. In fact, there's the original centre. So that's the centre that I removed out of the crank sensor wheel that came in the post. That's a 36-1. I managed to clock it up off the hole in the middle so it's all nice and true. And then I was about to turn it, and I realised that if I were to turn it to fit the diameter of that, there would be no land for the screws to go in. So what I had to do was I had to put this in, clock it up, and I've turned that diameter right down. You can see the shiny bit there, so that we've got enough land on here now. If I go like this, hopefully that should be 2 thou smaller, and it's just sitting on the cock there. But yeah, what we'll do is we'll heat this ring up when we found the position, which is 90 degrees before top dead center. That's where you have the gap on the sensor, and then we'll drop it in and it'll all be good. And while I'm up here, I thought I'd show you the cam cover. This is the cam cover that I've just prepared for the car. So that's, if you remember, normally they have the belt cover on the outside here. What I've basically done is I've just ground it off and then linished it and filed it, giving it a coat of blue. I thought I'd do it blue because it's called a red top engine. I thought I'll give it a blue top, but that's just my poor sense of humour. Good morning, YouTubers. It's the big day today. We're going to run the XE. I've been running it in on the dyno and it's absolutely sweet as a nut. I love these engines. They are just awesome lumps. Probably we're going to risk it now. It may take its second place to the Hillman engine. So that'll be the Hillman first, the XE, and then the Rover V8's been demoted to third. But if we dyno a Rover V8, it might get put back up to second. We'll have to see. Anyway, what I was going to say was, all I've done since last time I saw you was I've put this crank trigger and this Can-Am's spark only ignition on. Obviously when Tim gets it to Jersey, he's going to put it on the DTA. So I've just made a bit of a makeshift bracket, but it's good and solid. It's got a nice radius in there, so it's well supported. Set the clearance on there, 20 thou. Now, I was going to just talk for 1 second about crank triggers, because obviously lots of people might be thinking about putting fuel injection on the cars, and if they're getting a build done and they're doing it themselves, you may look in the book and most people start, or most of these people that create the ignition system say, we want the trigger to see the missing gap 90 degrees before top dead center. So you can see we've got 36 teeth around the outside here, and we've got a missing gap. So you can see, oh my god, this has all gone wrong, hasn't it? Okay, good morning, YouTubers. Today, very exciting day for me. It's dyno day. I've just got the engine running. I've put some water in it. I've run it up. It sounds absolutely sweet as a nut. I love it. I do like an XE engine. I've got to say, they are cracking lumps, these. So where am I up to? I've rang the Oracle, Dr. Robert Jones of B&J Race Engines, and I said, Bob, I'm on 11.5 to 1 2 litre with your cams, your P6 cams in it. Blah de blah de blah. 45mm Delautos with some 38mm chokes, and he said, right, you need to put these jets in it. So put these jets in it, so if it blows up or goes lean, I'm going to blame Bob. No, we're joking. Anyway, he's done that for me. I've set the advance inside this Can-Am's advance unit, nice and chilled. We've not got too much in it because being a penthouse chamber inside of it with a centralised spark plug, it's a very efficient engine. It doesn't need oodles of advance to make it work like the Hillman. What else was going to say? Oh, so since yesterday, I've made this bracket. It's a bit makeshift, running the Ford sensor. It's just a piece of angle, which you might have seen earlier on. I chopped it down, drilled and tapped some M8 bolts into the block, and given it the correct gap. Now, I've drilled and tapped this trigger wheel that you saw earlier on the lathe as well, and I've put it on some, not that you can see, but there's a couple of, well, there's 4 countersunk screws in it now, holding it in position. Now, I'm just going to talk for 1 minute about how to set these up, because the manufacturers of the aftermarket ECUs, they always say the crank trigger needs to see the gap in the trigger wheel 90 degrees before top dead center, and that just sounds quite straightforward, doesn't it? But I'll go through it, so it's definitely straightforward. So we've got 36 teeth around the outside here, and we've got a missing gap. Now at the moment the gap is at the bottom because this is my TDC mark. So what you do is, if you want to set your engine up, you find TDC, and then you just dead simply wind it back, very gently of course. Don't do it like I did. That's not very professional, is it? So wind it back to roughly what looks like, I mean, I did this properly before with a set. Right, so there you go. So you can see the gap is now in front of the sensor. So basically the crank sensor sees the gap 90 degrees before top dead center in a clockwise rotation. So when that's on another 90 degrees, it'll be at TDC. And I think the reason they do that is to give the brains inside here, they've got lots to do, you know, especially on the DTA where it's doing the ignition, the fueling as well. It's got to fire the injector and all sorts of things going on. So they trigger it early, and then the computer decides how much advance the engine is actually going to see, and then sparks it somewhere between 90 degrees and TDC, so you get the correct advance figure. And then obviously it's got to inject the fuel as well, so it's quite busy inside there. So this engine at the moment, just to recap, is on twin 45mm Delautos. That's just because I don't really have the facilities or the skills to map this properly, so I'm going to set it up. Well, I'm just proof testing the engine. I'm just going to run it up, get some RPM on it. I want to get an idea of where peak torque is and see if it's hanging on like I think it. I'm really hopeful that it's going to want to be. I'll know if it's happy up at 8 and 8.5. If it's happy up there, we're on a win. It'll do good horsepower this, but we won't find out the true horsepower figures until it goes to Jersey. Now, what we have to do is, this is a dyno, and it has obviously an analog scale here, and at the back here it has a weight. You can see it on the slider. So what we have to do is we're going to have to move it along, because it'll be off the scale compared to a Hillman. So can you see I just slid it along one to where it says 15, the next one is 30, 45, 60. So we never actually had it past the 15. So what that now means is, just get out of here, reverse out of the clutter. If you look at the scale, it's very, very simple the way it works. We have the RPM in the middle. So say it's doing 8,000 RPM and the needle is pointing to, say, 15. So it's 15 on here, 15 down there, which gives us 30. So if I get the calculator and just simply type in 30 as a torque figure, multiplied by 8, 1, 2, 3. Oh, what have I done that for? 30 multiplied by 8, 1, 2, 3 gives us, oh, that hasn't, why hasn't that worked? 30 multiplied by 8, 1, 2, 3, 8,000 RPM, 240 horsepower. So that would be a good figure. So we see it near the 15 up at 8,000, we know we're on. Right, I'll stop waffling, let's get a tune out of it. Okay YouTubers, we're on and running with the XE. It's absolutely sweet as a nut. What a machine. It is so keen to rev. I'm struggling to get enough load on with the dyno. It's just whizzing it right round, even with the extra weight on it. Just load it up. 5,000, let everything wide open, I'll keep loading it up. It's holding 17.2 at 6.5. Steady as a rock. Let's just see what 17.2. It won't be real figures this. 17.2 plus 15 equals 32.2, obviously, multiplied by 6.5, 1, 2, 3. 209 horsepower. Wicked. The question is it going to hang on? That's the big question. At 7 it's still doing 17. 17 at 7, so that's 32 at 7. 32 multiplied by 7, 1, 2, 3. 224 horsepower. Right, it's getting a bit warm. I wouldn't mind just giving me a little break. We're up to sort of 85 degrees there. The cooling capacity obviously is absolutely perfect for a Hillman, but we're knocking out, doubling a bit the horsepower here, so we're putting a lot of heat into the system. I might give him a little rest for a minute. Okay, we're back. Now I've given him a little chance to cool off, and it was down to 60, but it's crept up a bit. Anyway, we're just going to go for it. I need to know what it's doing at like 8,000 before we can let it go out, just so we've got an idea if the longer rod has helped it. I can tell already that it's much happier than a normal rod length engine up at them RPM, because normally they're falling off the edge of a cliff like them. So we're going to have one go at doing it. I'm not sure whether Dyno's going to grab it. I want to keep a finger on the release button so it just gets there anyway. 7,000 falling off, 7.5. Oh, didn't like that, did it? Something went sick there. Put some water in as well. Right, let's have a look at that. Might be a bit of a... I should have put the other plugs in it, shouldn't I? Okay, YouTubers, we're back again. Bit of a nearly had a Mallory moment there, didn't we? I'd left the plugs in. I hope you can see them. These are some, they're called Bosch Super 4s. I just put them in to run it in, and I've forgotten to change them. Real big mistake there. So I'll put it on a set of the Sierra spark plugs I've been saving for it, called Champion C20xe. These are equivalent to like a 9. So while we've got plenty of temperature manoeuvre in the cooling system, we're going to go straight back to it, see if we get that 8,000 figure. Still holding 16, 7.5, 15, 8,000, 8,013. So I'm not sure what that is. Let's have a quick look. 13 plus 15 is obviously 28. So 28 multiplied by 8, 1, 2, 3, 225. Well, I'm happy it's been there, and realistically, we're rushing here, you know. I don't want to cock it, so ideally I think we'll give it a good dressing up with its new cam cover, put the throttle bodies on, deliver it to Tim, and we'll let him get it mapped properly with the 45mm throttle bodies. I think this could be a good 240 horsepower engine with a bit of work, you know. It's certainly fresh. Right, we'll whiz it off because we've got to get the engine, or the spare engine, the small pin 1120 that I built for the imp some time ago, with the motorcycle pistons and rods. That's got to go in the car, ready for the Jersey Festival of Motoring and Speed next weekend. Okay, YouTubers, hope you're still awake and you've enjoyed tonight's episode. I'll look forward to speaking to you all next week, when hopefully we'll have some in-car footage from the hill climb and the speed event that I'm doing in Jersey inside the imp. I'm going to put the 1120cc engine in it, the one we did the motorcycle pistons and rods on, the small diameter crankshaft pins. So hopefully it'll hold together and we don't end up with a snap crankshaft. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'll keep the RPM under 9. Right, have a great week. Bye bye for now.